Hello and welcome to the Interpreting Wine Hospitality Podcast with me, your host and podcast founder, Lawrence Francis. Welcoming you to this series celebrating the category of sherry. Released during Sherry Week 2019, this series will transport you to the region via conversations with Señor Beltrán Domecq of the Consejo Regulador and winemakers and owners of several bodega houses in the region. Sharing this information in podcast format, a first for the region. These 9 episodes will bust some myths about sherry that still exist in the marketplace and educate and attract a whole new audience of sherry drinker. So without further ado, here's today's episode of the series. Today's episode of the Sherry Week series features Rocío Ruiz of Bodegas Urium. In a departure from the typical scale of sherry production in Jerez, Rocío and her family are working on a much more familiar scale. And in this episode, she leads us around their bodega in Jerez, tasting several of their sherries, including the Fino en rama and several from the classico range. And interspersed with the tastings, she answers my questions, explaining how they make sherry at Urium. Enjoy.
I think I'm going to tell you just a small introduction about our bodega.
Perfect.
This is a small bodega, very, very familiar because we are just 3 people in the team. We are three people team. My father, my husband, and me. It's as you can see, it's very familiar. We try to do the wines we like. Then it's important. It's not easy to transmit about cherry because cherry I think is not very well known. But if I try to explain each wine, I think you're gonna understand and you are going to love the wines.
Perfect.
2 things we are looking for 2 things doing wines. One of them is to mark very well the style of the type. If you test Fino, Manzanilla, Oloroso, you can feel this wine is as it should be. And another thing is we want elegance, freshness. When you drink the wine, you want to drink more because it's very nice and gentle, and you want to drink another glass.
Sure.
Let's start with a glass of Fino. We bottle just one type of Fino. It's 8 years old. It's a long aging for a Fino because we think 8 years is the proper aging to mark this type very well. Because Fino is a type of wine. It's a cherry that is made by the biological aging. That is the wine into the cask. There is a film in the surface of the wine that is a yeast, and the yeast is a living thing in the wine that is transforming, eating from the wine and giving the wine another. Then it's a transformation. In 8 years, the transformation is complete. That's why we have a Fino with 8 years old. Let me take a glass of this. This is a Fino from the Solera. Is this Fino is en rama. En rama means is a wine that is not filtered, it hasn't got any clarification, any filtration, any stabilization. When a vino in general, or Fino in this case, is en rama, the color and the aromas, the flavors are natural. When you take the wine from the cask, it's natural. You don't do anything to the wine to preserve this into the bottle. Then it's more natural. Have the style a Fino should have, but when you put it in the bottle, you could find, for example, find some sediments or the wine could be cloudy, but it's a natural process because it's not prepared.
Absolutely.
But it's more natural.
And this style of winemaking, I think we see more and more in non-fortified other regions, France and Austria. What is the history of Enrama in Jerez?
It's something old, but we are recovering that concept in this moment. It's very old because it's a word, Enrama is expression they usually use a lot of years ago, referring to this wine natural, fresh from the barrel, fresh from the casks. But in some years ago, the trend was to clarify very much the wine because the public wanted that. In this moment, we are recovering this appreciation for the natural wine. The wine is as it should be. You can see the color is not totally transparent. Some cloudy. It's very it's golden. I think, and you can feel the aromas. And in the mouth is long, and you must feel, or I want you to feel, because it's a wine of 8 years of aging, concentration. Long, it preserves the flavor. It's long, very long. Stays in a long finish. 8 years of biological aging means that it hasn't got any glycerin. Then it's just the opposite of the glyceric wine. It's very vertical, goes from the palate to the stomach directly. It's not going down slowly. No, it's vertical. That's it. You can feel. I think you can feel some things very typical in the biological aging. One of them is the yeast, like when you make bread, it's like dough. Yeah. Or almonds. Sure. Yeah. Bitter almonds. When you at the finish, at the end is some bitter. Sure. Yeah. But very nice bitterness. I think.
In the context of Urium, then, are people, outside or in Spain, are they curious about Enrama? Because, I notice a lot of other kind of tendencies towards this style of wine in white wine or in red wine, and I'm just curious, has this been something that's kind of...
But Enrama is an expression that we use just in Jerez. In the cherry wines, not for red wine or white wine. We use this expression in this type of wine, in cherry. But I think in this moment people is very interested in cherry in general and starting to understand the concept Enrama. And then they are starting to know that you could find sediments. You could find some cloudy in the wine is a little cloudy, or for example, the oxidation starts before if you filter or do any treatment. It's another trend in this moment is people is buying bottles of Fino and Manzanilla, and but Fino and Manzanilla is very curious because they are buying for keeping for a long time or for 1 year or for a time, and then test to see the evolution into the bottle. For cherry, it's very interesting because some years ago people always said, no, you need to drink very fast because the wine is going to be bad in some months. But in this moment, there is a group of people very interested in learning about English, learning about cherry, learning about this type of concept as Enrama, and observing or watching how is the wine evolutioning into the bottle. It's very.
And do you think this kind of trend and this force, in a way, it comes more from outside of Spain, or
perhaps
it comes from inside?
Perhaps. We are. I can say from inside that the bodegas, we and the Consejo Regulador, we are doing big efforts to transmit what we were speaking. But and in a couple of years, 2-3 years perhaps, I feel people in Spain it's more interested. But some years ago was very funny because it was easier to sell cherry outside Spain than in Spain. But in this moment it's more balanced. The interest is more balanced inside and outside.
Okay, no, really good.
Do you think we could try a small Amontillado to see? Because
no,
it's I think the next step because
this is
in this line to mark very well the style, we refresh the young criaderas of Amontillado with this old Fino.
Okay.
Then the wine we are going to test is a Amontillado that was a Fino, but 8 years old Fino, and then was oxidating during 7 years. Then it's a 15 years old wine. Okay. Then I'm gonna serve you a glass of Amontillado classico. It's a range we have that is, as I told you, 15 years old. Then an Amontillado must be vertical as Fino, but you need to feel some something smoky or something toast in the nose or vanilla, things related with wood and related with oxidation. Then it's very elegant, I think, vertical, liquid. It's like Fino, but more complex because this wine has both type of aging. First biological and then oxidation. What do you think? It's a little liar. It's because this wine, because when you smell it, you could think it's sweet in the palate, but it isn't.
Yeah, I think
perhaps.
I mean, I'll be honest. I in the past I've been confused a lot by sherry. I mean, I think on this trip I've had more sherry than I've had in any other moment of my life. So I'm expecting now, and it's what maybe we would call in England like an acquired taste. You know what's coming. But again, it's super complex. This is one of those wines that I like to, of course, drink wines, but the smell, the olor is so complex.
Yeah, each time you smell, you could feel something different.
Absolutely.
And the wine is like opening a long time and giving you different sensations each time. You can feel this vanilla and something like citrus, like orange peel, perhaps, something like that.
And this the amount of time again under biological and oxidative?
It's 8 years under this yeast. Biological, and then 7 years with oxidative.
And this is in some way an average age, or
it's average age, because we are speaking about criaderas and solera system that we don't have vintages. We have an average age. Always we are speaking about average age. That's why I told you we refresh the young criaderas of Amontillado with an old Fino, 8 years Fino. Then it's a process. When the wines enter into the bodega, it's the same wine, and depending on the type of aging you give to each wine, you're going to obtain different types. Then, with the same wine, you select a part for biological and you select another part for oxidative aging. With the same wine, the same grape, the same process, the same material, it's going to be two different, very, very, very different types. And then when you have biological, you have another 8 years later, you are going to refresh with this Fino, the young Amontillados. Then start the young, older, and the oldest is there. I don't know if it's not easy to explain. For me, you have a system. You have a system in the bodega, and you have an order, different casks, different ages, and you are taking a small part of some cask that is, and this cask is refilled with another a little younger. And that is the process.
So even though you are quite an artisanal small bodega here, you don't have thousands of casks like some of the other bodega houses.
No, we
here.
have 500.
500.
Yes, it's very small.
Okay. But I think even still, you have to, I guess, track very carefully the evolution of each cask and where it's going. So could you say something about that?
Each cask or each group of casks has a name put in the casks. For example, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
This one here. I'll tell you what's the meaning of this.
Yeah, please.
We have 8 rows of casks in the bodega. The first, the second, the third, the fourth. This one is the third. The third row. Then is 12 casks in the third row of Fino. From here, pointing there, and if you count 12 casks, you'll find is the last one. I know this 12 casks.
This is your writing.
Yeah. And then from here to the last in this row is Fino, and you're going to find another arrow pointing here. Yeah. And then you have 12 casks of the same wine in this row, the third row, with this type of Fino, and this is a criadera. Then when we are speaking, for example, I tell my father, Daddy, I take a sample from the 3 en 12. 3 en 12, it means that 312, and we are referring at this wine, and it's identified, and everything like that. For example, this is 4 Amontillado, 4 in 21 is all these 2, but we have divided in 4, the 4 and 4, and we know each cask, it's group, and each cask into the group. I don't know if I can transmit. And that's why we could do that. We can do that because we are small. When you have thousands and thousands, it's more difficult. But in this case, we are doing very carefully, cask by cask, testing one by one. And saka, you know what saka? Saka means to take wine out from the cask. And when you are bottling, you are making a saka. When we are making a saka, one saka or one bottling, we are selecting, for example, the Fino is all this row near to the floor is the solera of Fino. Solera means something similar to floor, suelo. That's the name, that's why the name. And then solera, this is the solera of Fino. We are selecting for weeks, 4 weeks, marking the cask we like more, and tomorrow we'll see. And one day later, we test cask by cask again. Okay, this cask is very good. I like this. No, I'm not sure this one. Let's see tomorrow. And we are for some days, perhaps 10 days, 2 weeks, testing cask by cask to be very sure we are making the saka we like, we want. And then we do it. Then we need to refresh with another criadera, and it's the same process. Another thing is the evaporation. If you don't move the wine, the amount of wine is going to change too, because the water is evaporating and wine is concentrating. And then this is always changing. You need to change this writing constantly. That's why these marks are not forever, because it's a way we are working here, and we need to change.
How often do you have to keep a track of what's happening here? Is it
for
daily?
Example,
is it weekly? Is it monthly?
We have a program during the year of the sacas we are going to make, the bottlings we are going to make, and then it's a process, starting with one type, for example, Fino, then we make the saca for the bottling, then refresh, and then refresh, and then refresh. Then we are making the saca of Amontillado and doing the refresh. And it's always, we have this work during all the year. But once a year, we make a general tracking, a general measuring, analyzing everything. And usually it's at the end of the year or beginning of the year, we stop and then we see how is everything, measure everything, and a control. The control of the year, a general control.
Yeah, like accounting, basically, right?
Something.
And you're saying like the time and the schedule. Is this something that I understood and I heard as almost like a recipe, like a plan for the style of the bodega?
It's a general plan. It's a general plan.
And something that can vary between bodega, or
no, it's different. I don't. I can tell you what we do here, but I don't know what's planned in another.
Sure.
I can say.
I understand.
I can say because, for example, in Fino, in the biological aging, we have planned two sacas a year, one in the springtime and the other in the autumn, because the temperature is very mild.
Yeah.
And it's better to recover the vitality of the yeast. But perhaps some other bodegas, the plan is different. I don't know.
But you follow the schedule from where? Where does the
from my
schedule
father
come
and me sitting in a table and thinking about what we do, what we are doing this year, how are we planning to make the sacas, how many bottles we sell last year, and then we need to. It's something very personal. It's very personal.
And honestly, it's super interesting for me because I think one of the things I was struggling with before I came here, and a little bit before I came here even today, was what is the difference between each bodega. I think there is a general, a broader mark of sherry and what happens in general, within each bodega. But then I think there is also a story of what is unique to each bodega, and it sounds like that's what you're talking about there. This is something that you've agreed on.
Because in Jerez we have general rules, but they are not so strict. They are strict, but into these rules we can take decisions and mark your own personality. For example, I like a Fino with 8 years. A Fino must be at least 3 years of aging. But in our case, we prefer, because it's in our style, to bottle Fino with 8 years old. Why? Because we want to mark this personality or this style or this type. It's a decision. It's a decision from us. It's not a rule. Then each bodega is going to decide how many sacas is going to make every year, how long is the aging of each year, but always into the rules, in the general rules.
Sure. Amazing.
Let's try another.
Yeah, okay, cool.
We could, I'm going to give you some Palo Cortado.
Okay, this is...
the mystery.
The mystery, yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm joking. I think it's another trend, Palo Cortado.
In
general,
sense? Yeah.
Because people is very interested in knowing what's a Palo Cortado, what is a Palo Cortado, how do you make a Palo Cortado, what's Palo Cortado?
Cuéntanos.
Cuéntame qué es un Palo Cortado. The definition of Palo Cortado officially is a wine that reminds you of Amontillado in the nose because it's vertical, elegant, fine, very fine, and reminds you an Oloroso in the palate because it's round, very glyceric, and very full mouth. Then it's a combination of the powerful mouth and the very subtle nose. This is the definition. And there is no other definition. That's why it's into the oxidative agent, not biological, not Fino, not Manzanilla, not Amontillado, it's biological agent. Then you preserve all the glycerin in the wine, because, when you, first I have to say, biological agent, the yeast that was living in that surface was eating from the wine, and then one of the things the yeast eats is the glycerin, and makes the wines very dry, very vertical. In this case, Oloroso and Palo Cortado hasn't got any biological. Then preserve all that glycerin, and for example, in this one is 18 years old, and you can think 18 years the water is evaporating and everything is concentrating. Then glycerin is very, very concentrated. The mouth is going to be full, and the complexity is amazing in mouth. And I think the nose is very elegant. Then we select from the oxidative casks. We select the more elegant casks to refresh the system of Palo Cortado. The system, criadera and solera system, I told you before. Then it's a personal selection of the, in this case, my father and me. We always, sometimes we agree, sometimes, but usually we agree. What do you think? It's very complex.
I think it's like I'm actually, weirdly enough, and it hasn't really happened on this trip, I'm actually being taken in some way towards like a distilled spirit, you know, to like a, not exactly the same as a whiskey, but you know, this like almost like a peated note, but something with a lot of complexity, you know, almost towards the sort of caramel, and, you know, these really rich kind of flavors that I don't know of really in any other wine. I've not tasted, that's why I'm saying whiskey. I'm not a whiskey expert, but these are the notes that I've found whenever I've tried a quality whiskey. So
I have met people that were whiskey lovers, and they came to Jerez to know where the cherry casks were made, and then I met them, and they discovered cherry through the whiskey.
Sure. which actually, I mean, I would ask as well. I mean, I don't know if this is something specific to here or maybe in the region, but you know, I am aware of distilleries in Scotland that use cherry casks. So yeah, could you say something about that? The evolution of that.
Yeah. Some years ago, whiskey or bourbon or a lot of distillates were using casks that have contained this type of wine before, because they were giving to the wine some complexity and some aromas that improve the product. And in some way, there were some people that were selling cherry casks, but they were not really cherry casks. And then some years ago, they create a certification that is cherry cask, and this certification assures that the wine that were containing in this cask were cherry, really wine from here. And there are some business here just for making cherry casks. They make casks with American oak, and they put some cherry inside, and they take the wine out and sell the barrel for that purpose. But we could do that. We haven't got space. We are very small.
You don't have enough barrels to sell.
just for us.
Yeah.
No. Sorry about this is our warehouse. We have boxes, bottles.
We are guests. So.
Then that's why we don't have visits or tours here, because it's not prepared for doing tours
but
here.
You know what? But people would.
But it's real.
People would love to see it.
We have the bottling here. The boxes.
People don't always want to see the perfect.
No.
You know
I don't know.
Really, really. This would impress, and people. This would draw in a lot of people that want to get the essence of sherry.
It's
honestly,
more true.
It's
true.
totally. It's from the heart. You know. It's not
you can see the ceilings are lower than there.
Yeah.
That's why the biological aging is there, because you need high ceilings, because hot air is going up and the fresh air is going down.
Oh, okay.
Then we have here Palo Cortado, Oloroso, some Amontillado there, cream, and Pedro Jimenez.
Okay.
And Oloroso, oxidative, not biological.
Yeah. So like in total then, more or less, every year, how many bottles? The bodega?
It's depending on the wine and on the year. For example, Fino or Manzanilla, we usually bottle around 1,000, 1,500 small bottlings. And VORS, VORS, once a year, and it's around 100 liters, 200 bottles, because it's half liter bottle. A small amount.
Okay, and actually, I mean, I don't think I've really picked up exactly on the recording, like VORS, like what is the definition?
It's a qualification, or that means it's the initials of very old rare sherry, or in Latin is Vinum optimum rare signatum, and means that the wine is very special and very old. It's more than 30 years old. And you need to send to the Consejo Regulador the sample of this wine each time you are going to make a bottling. If you want to make a bottling, you need to send a sample, say how many bottles are you going to produce, and then they allow you with the testing panel and the analysis. They decide if they give the category, and if you they give you the labels just for the bottle you are going to make in this time, each time. And then it's a very, very not easy and not very dynamic process, because you need the authorization, and the main thing is, for example, in our case, our VORS are older than 40, and then to preserve this age in the solera, the maximum amount of wine you can bottle a year is 1 liter per each 40 liters you have. Okay. One of the 40th part.
2.5%.
Yeah.
It's very small amount.
Very, very small. And it's very expensive. And it's very difficult to make it to the public, or people understand what's inside that bottle. It's not a price. No, it's not paid. It's not paid with money. Then I think we are better in the others. Let me give you some Oloroso.
Okay, yeah, let's try.
This one is an Oloroso in the classico range, like the Amontillado before, and the Palo Cortado. And this is 12 years old. And I think you could think it's an Oloroso because it has a powerful nose, and it's a little cloudy. You can see. because it's from the cask. It's natural. Sometimes when you make a saka and refresh, all the sediments in the cask are moving.
Yeah.
And then the wine needs time to settle down the sediments, and again it's going to be very transparent. But in this moment it's a little cloudy. Can you see the tears? Because of the glycerin and because of the alcohol and concentration. The alcohol evaporates very fast, and then the rest is stick in the glass. Oloroso is a dry wine. It's a dry wine. If you put some PX or Pedro Jimenez into the Oloroso, then you are going to have a cream. But Oloroso is a dry wine, and is the sugar, the residual sugar in one Oloroso must be lower than 5 grams per liter. In this case, could be 3,
this feels,
more or less.
Feels very dry.
But the sensation is velvety and very round because of the glycerin. It's just concentration and glycerin.
I think this is the perfect time, to share something about the appreciation and the identity of these wines in el extranjero, in abroad. What is that like for you? Are you traveling a lot to other markets? Are you getting a lot of feedback?
I wish
from
I
other
could.
markets?
I wish I could.
Yeah.
But
how are these wines being received outside?
No, we are lucky because a lot of people from outside is coming to Jerez. And for example, Consejo Regulador or Fed Jerez or some institutions are promoting people coming here, and then we could meet people interested. And sometimes I travel, but not as I like. I would like to travel more. And
where are people coming from? What sort of countries and regions?
All over the world, because I have I sell wines from, of course, here in Cádiz or all around Spain, but I have clients in UK or Denmark, Belgium, Holland, or Switzerland. Another a very funny thing is we have a client in New Zealand. My father say, make a hole and send them because it's just at the opposite side. It's not an importer, it's just a restaurant, but we are very happy because it's very exciting for us. Our wine in New Zealand at the other side of the world. It's very nice. In China, we have a client in China. Yeah.
And really final kind of question for me. I mean, you're obviously young. You're very enthusiastic. What do you think is, the secret, or what do you think is a good way to attract younger people to appreciate and to want to drink these types of wines going forward?
I think it's very interesting making experiments with food. I think pairings, because it's such amazing range, such amazing possibilities. You have lots of possibilities and surprising possibilities, because I don't know if, we have a lot of typical pairings as jamón and fino or meat and oloroso or
almonds.
It's okay. I love them, but for example, fruit and Amontillado, mango and Amontillado is an amazing combination, or chocolate and Palo Cortado. It's amazing.
I've had that this week.
I do that.
Incredible.
Finishing the meal, we take a lot of type of chocolates, and we open a bottle, for example, Palo Cortado or Oloroso, and we test different a darker chocolate, or for example, we found a very strange and funny combination that was white chocolates and Fino. White chocolate and Fino was amazing, or dark chocolate with salt and Palo Cortado was amazing. I have a friend from Belgium, and each time he comes, he brings us Belgian chocolate, and we make strange combinations. Or curry, for example, chocolate curry and Oloroso, amazing.
Thank you so much, Rocío. An absolute pleasure to meet you, and delighted to share this very personal tour with my listeners. You can, of course, find below the website and main social media handle for Bodegas Urium. And while you're at it, why not check out the whole of the Sherry Week series over at interpretingwine.com/sherry. Next time in the Sherry series, in episode 332, we head to Bodegas Tío Pepe. See you then.